The Double is the next C-drama that I have watched. This is a historical, and I want to say historical fiction slash fantasy, but it is such an intriguing, gothic, almost high melodramatic production. It is a whole host of things, and I see a familiar face in it as well, and I have to give you my first impressions of it. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and so much more. I have to give a shout out to a commenter on one of my more recent podcast episodes. They're the one that put me on to The Double and said, hey, this is all the rage right now. You should get on it. And it's so interesting because there was another comment that was left not too long ago as well that said, I've noticed on your podcast you tend to review more of the modern side of dramas versus, going more into historical. I think you should give them more shot. They had mentioned another show as well, but The Double was kind of stuck in my mind, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try this out. And yeah, I probably should be giving that genre a little bit more of a shot. I'll be honest, I tend to stick to modern because I like modern a lot. And one of my favorite C-dramas happens to be a modern C-drama, Hidden Love, like my absolute everything. But The Double, oh my goodness. The first 10 minutes of this show are just so jam-packed. I gotta tell you right now, it's a beautiful show. The way it's filmed, the camera angles, I guess you can say color grading, the music, everything is so thematic. It is just a visual feast going into Double. Like one of the opening shots, the female lead, she's wearing this really bright blood red dress, and it's so vivid because a lot of the coloring around her is very muted, but there's something so captivating about how they made that first shot, and it's a very surreal dream that she's having with her husband, and there's like a purity to it. It's very beautiful, and it kind of rips the rug right underneath your feet, because then she wakes up from this dream and it's like she's plunged into this dreamscape of a nightmare, but it's actually her reality. The first 10 minutes are so filled with tension and masterful without giving you a lot of information. Just know that right off the bat, when she wakes up, she finds herself in bed with a man that is not her husband. She ends up screaming. It's a very dark, very eerie night, and bursts in through the door is her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and they start screaming their heads off. And just the way that the camera's tracking the female lead's face, you already feel super scared for her. And keep in mind, this is historical drama as well, so anything that is alluding to adultery, especially in regards to a woman, is going to have dire consequences. So you already, as a viewer, are like plunged in, and your nerves are already shot because you already feel a sense of wanting to be protective of the female lead. She ends up being locked away, and I am kind of going into some spoilers, but I'm going to try to keep it mild, but I kind of want to set the tone for like the first 10 minutes of the show, which is super jam-packed. So just bear with me. She ends up getting locked into a chamber, and she is obviously fearful for her life. She is calling out saying, I didn't do it. I don't know who that man is. It wasn't me. I don't know what's going on. Then the door kind of bursts open. Her husband comes in, and he has a really stoic look on his face, and you as the audience don't know what the hell's going on, and he's holding on to an axe. And then it's just like this masterful rise in tension that just keeps racketing up. And you and the audience are like, what the hell is going on? Like, I was so enraptured in those first 10 minutes. Like, if I could teach like a master class in how to hook someone's attention in a show immediately, this show right here would be it. He comes closing in on her, and she's tied to like a frame, right? And he's holding this axe, and you as the audience are wondering, is he going to save her or is he going to bludgeon her? And it's just like this back and forth until finally he cuts her loose and they run off into the night. And then you as an audience are almost tricked and lulled into thinking that she's safe, just like her. She's wrapped up in his embrace. They're in his carriage. It's like this beautiful, serene ride in the dark. And then the rug gets pulled from underneath you again. And then the show keeps going into this really surrealist, nightmarish, gothic horror. She ends up being thrown into a ditch after her husband poisons her with some drink that was meant to soothe her during this carriage ride. She wakes up, she's in this ditch, he's got a shovel, and he is burying his wife alive. I'm telling you, the show is crazy. Crazy. This is the first 10 minutes still, folks. 10 minutes in. She's begging and she is pleading, and he is not giving her anything until finally says, I had no choice. She won't allow it any other way. If I don't do this, the consequences are dire. And the female lead is like, who is she? We're to assume that the she is another woman that her husband's most likely cheating on her with, right? And then she's buried alive. Her husband goes back to the residence, and we're introduced to, I'm assuming, who's going to be one of the main antagonists of this show. A very deranged princess who is played by a very good actress, by the way. And she is just reveling in the fact that her husband of the female lead actually did this. And she's having a great time. And the actress is bone chilling. And I don't want to spoil the rest of it, but it gets even more convoluted and crazy. So that's the first half of the show. And most of what I just talked about and spoiled is like literally the first 10 minutes. And the female lead is Ali, as far as I know, or Fang Fi. She goes by 2 names, I think. Then we meet Duke Su, who comes in super flair, super dramatic, beautiful bellowing red cape, and he honestly reminded me of Tuxedo Mask for any of the Sailor Moon manga lovers. And I love, like, Tuxedo Mask was like literally my first crush. And he comes in like that. And I believe this is the same actor that was from Amidst a Snowstorm of Love. I believe. Because he has a very, very beautiful, like, drop dead gorgeous face. I can't stand it. Honest to God. He is so good looking in this show. I know he's super young, if it's the actor who I think it is, but he is like super duper young. I think he was even much younger than Leo Wu. As far as I know, Leo Wu is 24, 25, and I believe this actor, who is also in the midst of Snowstorm of Love, who I think played the brother for Mei Mei's character. It's escaping me right now, but he comes in and it's just full of flair. Like, there's flying everywhere. There's like high melodrama. It's so over the top in the next half of the episode. And I just know that I'm gonna root so hardcore for him as the male lead and the female lead to get together. The final 10 minutes of the show truly is where it leans into the most gothic and horrifying manner of it. The female lead, surprise, surprise, isn't actually dead. Somehow she survives being buried alive by her husband, digs herself out of the grave, and ends up getting washed ashore. She comes across 2 female characters, Jian Li, and Tonger, her maid. They have both come from this, I want to say convent, seems like a really crazy murderous cult, from the Xinu Hall. They're all dressed in white. They rescue her. She's very suspicious, but the Jiang Li, she ends up really nursing her and helping her despite the fact that she could get in a lot of trouble for this. And this character meets an untimely demise towards the end of the episode. And the entire sequencing of it is super tragic and heartbreaking. But in the end, it is the catalyst for our female lead to want to take her identity. And now, at the end of the episode, we're now introducing the revenge arc. I'm telling you, this is probably the most excited I have been watching a first episode. I did spoil quite a bit. Think of it as like a recap. I'm leaving out a lot of details, trust and believe. But it was so immersive and impressive. I cannot wait to dive back into this. So I have this show, I have The Long Ballad featuring Leah Wu, which I'm still loving, along with Reba and Xiao Le, enjoying the hell out of that. And I also have, on the K-drama side of things, My Sweet Mobster, which turned out to be really wonderful. And I still have a couple other C-dramas that I had picked up that I recently have reviewed on the podcast as well. So my schedule is super jam-packed right now. Not to even mention the BLs that have come out since. So there is a lot of stuff to watch right now, but I'm telling you, oh my god, the double. Sis really was smart. Sis was on it. Sis really helped me out. I need to figure out who the male lead is. I really do. I really, really do. He just is drop dead gorgeous. I want to think he was in a Mrs. Snow's Summer Love, but I may be wrong in that. But he just had like a similar bone structure. I may be completely off, but he was just utterly devastating to look at. He's just beautiful. And oh my god, he was just phenomenal. The female lead too was just really, really good. I bought into just how terrified she was in the first 10 minutes of the show. Like, the level of protectiveness I naturally felt for the character, super gripping. Overall, if I could teach a class in how you capture someone's attention quickly as possible, this show would be it. That first 10 minutes, crazy in the best way humanly possible. So keep tuned. I am definitely gonna stay watching the double. I have to see how it's going, and it's still currently airing as I am filming this, so I'm super hyped. I'm super stoked. If you're watching this via YouTube, tell me your thoughts. Have you been watching the double? Have you been swept up into the hype? What do you think? It has high melodrama, it has like gothic horror, the coloring, the scoring, everything about it is tip-top perfect. But it does have a comedic element too, which I love too. I love that it leans kind of into humor to kind of alleviate some of the tension as well. Just tell me your thoughts. If you're listening via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I love you. I appreciate you so much. I love you. Thank you. Until the next episode.